Hello, how are you all doing? I've been trying all day to post my latest blog post onto Facebook and it is having none of it. So I thought I would just come on here and read it to you. I've had several women come up to me today and say how much they enjoyed the post. And I've also had lots of emails from people, some people saying I gave them goosebumps. So this is my blog post. So last week I had the enormous pleasure of being asked to speak before Mary Portas when she launched her book, Work Like a Woman. And so I thought I'd share my thoughts with you on what it means to work like a woman. So I want to start here. The Equal Pay Act came out in 1970, which is almost 50 years ago, people. And this act made it illegal for people to be paid differently based on all sorts of things: their gender, religion, skin colour, sexual orientation. But despite this, women are still being paid less than men, which is why I'm here discussing what it means to work like a woman. And I was asked to speak at this event, not just because I'm a female entrepreneur, but because I co-founded the Blue Stocking Society in Nottingham. And Jean Booth, Beth Marriott and myself co-founded this group because we felt that there was something missing in the city. Now, I've been to a few networking events, but I found most of them to be a little bit pale, a little bit male, and a little bit stale. And they were full of people in business suits, desperate to work out whether I was actually worth speaking to. And I could feel them all sizing me up to see if I would be useful to them in any way. And I would leave with a fistful of business cards, just as isolated as when I went in. So with Blue Stockings, we wanted to create something different. We wanted to create an open space where friendships were made and where people would talk to you because they were interested in you, not just in what you could do for them. And we wanted to make it women only because we felt intuitively that this would make it the warm and inclusive space that we would want to go to. We wanted to create a space where we could share stories like when I started my period in a meeting with Nottingham Trent University, and I bled all over the back of my beautiful silk John Lewis dress, and I had to take my knickers off because they were soaked through. And then the only sanitary protection that I could buy was a box of enormous tampons that were too big for my tiny bag. So I had to go back to the meeting, Nicholas, proudly carrying my enormous tampons. And we also wanted to create a space where we could talk about things like caring for children and elderly parents. Because even though it is 2018, we pretty much know that the majority of the caregiving ends up in the women. And how do you run a business and be a caregiver at the same time? So these are the issues that we wanted to talk about. And 4 years later, we have created a wonderful community of female entrepreneurs who are supporting each other to grow and build successful businesses. But it's not enough. It's not enough. So this year I was invited by the University of Nottingham to help them create a toolkit to help women feel as empowered as they could be as female entrepreneurs. And we were looking at things like the idea of being legitimate. And we knew from talking to lots of women that they didn't feel like they were entrepreneurs. They described themselves in other ways, but they didn't feel able to claim the word of entrepreneurs as theirs. They felt like to be an entrepreneur, you had to run several businesses, you had to employ staff, you had to apply for funding, and you had to be earning at least 6 figures, which is a rather male way of looking at business. But if you look up what it means to be entrepreneurial in the dictionary, it just says taking financial risks in the hope of a profit. Well, that's what we're all doing. So we need to reclaim the word entrepreneur and have it for ourselves, because that's exactly what we'll be doing. This toolkit is going to be launched in January 2019, so keep an eye out because I'm going to be talking about it a lot. So just wanting to get back to this idea of women feeling legitimate in the space of business. Now, one of my clients was recently at a networking event where a man accused her that she was just playing at business. And another one of my colleagues recently told me that a man had told her he was surprised that her business had even lasted that long. Well, both of these women run really successful businesses. They both make more money than me and are really established in their field as creative risk takers. So what jerks these men are to feel like they can put them down in a public space. And I also want to say, if that guy who said to the woman she was just playing at business isn't having fun and enjoying his own business, then he's kind of doing something wrong, really, because I would see playing at business as something that we should aspire to. So what does it mean to work like a woman? Well, we know that it's not on a level playing field. We know that we're paid less than men for the same job. And we know that overall, men are earning more money than women, despite the fact that we leave university with better grades. We know that there are less female CEOs and even less women of colour in these top positions. And we also know that jobs that women are more likely to do, such as caring and teaching, are less valued by society and less well paid. But what got me when I read Mary Portas' book is that when men do a job, it is instantly valued higher. So she taught me that women, we were coders when it was first introduced. Coding was kind of seen as an admin role and it was attached to all our admin duties. But then when the dot-com boom happened in the 1980s, men realised that there was money to be made in coding, pushed the women out and gave themselves enormous pay rises. So suddenly when men were doing exactly the same job, it became instantly more valuable. And the even annoying thing is that we are better at coding than men. We make less mistakes. I also kind of came to the realisation that fashion, a predominantly female pursuit, makes loads more money for the UK economy than football. But if you looked at the news or the newspapers or what's happening in the press, there are literally no fashion programmes or fashion sections at the end of the papers, despite the fashion industry being worth more than football. But there is football everywhere, because guess what? Fashion's seen as a woman thing and men rule the media, all the things that we consume. And I also learned that France, Norway, Germany, Spain, Slovenia and Chile all pay more of their GDP towards childcare than we do to support women back into work. So what's to be done? Okay, well, Mary talks about how we can bring the feminine back into the workplace. Both men and women suffer with the current system, a system that rewards behaviour seen on programmes like The Apprentice in the search for profit rather than collaboration and cooperation. And we also know that when businesses are more value-led, they're more successful and they last for longer. So perhaps what we need to be asking ourselves when we're in business is what we're doing kind? Could we be kinder? And we might get a different response. And we also need to feel more empowered to ask questions. You know, if you're working in a business, ask your colleague how much they earn and ask if you can have a pay rise. And women who do part-time work need to stop being overlooked for promotions. And I've had so many female friends who lost their job while they were on maternity leave. That needs to stop. And what we also need to do is call out bad behaviour when we see it. So I used to work for a national charity in Nottingham, and the man I worked with asked me in front of another man if I liked doing it in the doggy position. And when I refused to answer, he asked me if I was frigid, and I was only about 22 and I didn't really know what to do. Now I know if I spoke to this other guy who was there, he would be mortified that he was in that situation. But in that time, he did nothing. He said nothing. He let that other guy kind of bully me. But don't worry, I didn't stay quiet for long. I threw a stapler at his head a few months later and quit my job. What gets me is that even when we are entrepreneurs and freelancers, women still charge less than men. So we're already undervaluing our services. So ask for more. Put your prices up, reclaim the word entrepreneur and wear it with pride. And next time a man puts you down in a networking group, laugh in his face and tell him that he's doing life all wrong. Don't apologise for being emotional and bring your whole self to work and work like a woman. That's it. Thank you.